It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy. Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews. The show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of Commander in front of us on my quest out brew the magic world. And as always, the deck list will be down in the description below. Today we are finishing on week 2, or we're continuing to finish on week 2 of our Ravnica Remastered celebration, covering a commander from every guild on Ravnica. And today we are taking a look at the murder circus that is the Rakdos. I mean, there were a ton of fun choices for Rakdos. I think we could have done it different ways. I originally had my heart set on Judith, but I decided after to go for Juri Master the Revue, because this was a commander that I had seen once or twice. I'd never taken a brew for it. Did get this pretty reprint in Multiverse Legends, and I thought, why not go for it? I feel like he still definitely shows everything that it means to be Rakdos, and let's have some fun with it. Juri is a 2-mana 1/1 human shaman. It says whenever we sacrifice a permanent, we put a +1/+1 counter on Juri, and whenever Juri dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So our playline for Juri is kind of straightforward in one sense. We get Juri as big as we can, sacrifice it or deal its damage in some way to other people, and profit, right? Now, there's a lot of different ways we can make permanents to sacrifice, but obviously the Rakdos are very good at making treasures, and I think treasures are a very good way to take advantage of this. Because treasures make us mana, and we can use mana to play more things. There's other things that we can do to make things that can get sacrificed or sacrifice themselves in order to trigger Juri. But I really think treasures are going to be our easiest game plan to get Juri big quickly, and then use some cards to either deal Juri's damage to other people, or double up on the damage. Remember, it says whenever it dies, it deals damage. So we'll talk about some cards that can get us potentially twice that damage, or more, depending on what we choose to do. So let's talk about, first we'll talk about the way we're going to make treasures or tokens. We're still playing a little bit of aristocrats, just because we can make regular tokens and sacrifice them, and Rakdos has plenty of great things to take advantage of that. So we'll talk about kind of the token side and what we're going to do to make them and sacrifice them. Then we'll talk about flinging Juri, or how we're going to use Juri to deal damage to our opponents, and that'll kind of cover how we hope to potentially end the game if we don't end it otherwise. Well, talking about treasures, there's a ton of ways to make treasures in Commander, and we're in red and black, and some of my favorite ways to make treasures are when we're trying to draw Unexpected Windfall and Big Score. Both draw us cards and make us treasures. Same thing with Deadly Dispute or Seize the Spoils. Making a treasure when we sacrifice a creature or artifact or to draw, or just discard a card and draw like the other two, which can be helpful because those are easy ways to continue to give us more card advantage, and get those treasures at the same time. We have things like Zorn and Academy Manufacturer to give us either more treasures or more things to sacrifice rather than just treasures themselves. Goldspend Dragon can not only give us treasures, but double up on the mana that our treasures can give us. Same thing with something like Captain Land Restore. Pitiless Plunder, anytime one of our creatures dies, gives us treasures, which can be great because it allows us to use that mana for more and more things. Mahadi, which came out of Commander Legends Baldur's Gate's kind of cool. At the beginning of our end step, we created treasure for each creature that died this turn, which is our end step, which is pretty cool because that can allow us to refill our kind of bank back on treasures that way. We have things like Lagomos and Chandra that make little tokens every turn that automatically get sacrificed, so they're automatically triggered Juri. And when those die, we can use effects like Mayhem Devil or Mirkwood Bats to deal some damage to our opponents when they die, kind of starting to whittle them down. We have things like Carrion Feeder and Viscera Seer to be sacrifice outlets in case we have other creatures we want to sacrifice. Nadier's Nightblade cares about tokens leaving our battlefield and giving us a very similar effect. As well as Harmonic Prodigy can help us double up on the amount of counters getting on Juri to make it faster and faster and faster. And then as well on the treasure sides, Reckless Fireweaver can deal damage whenever treasures come in, and Marionette Master can deal damage to our opponents or lose life to our opponents whenever our treasures leave battlefield. We also have Prosper, one of the best Rakdos treasure commanders in his own right, here to help us with getting more treasures and having a little bit of a sub strategy to help us out as we go. along. So we're making treasures of tokens, sacrificing them for value. We do also get, we do have the Bastions or Remembrance or the Goblin Bombardments of the World to deal damage to our opponents when we sacrifice creatures, but we also have Age of the Iron Throne, which says whenever an artifact or creature we control is put in the graveyard in the battlefield, each opponent loses a life. So treasures or creatures, or our creature tokens, will allow our opponent to lose a life. And that's important because we want to get that incremental life loss over the game. Things like Revel and Riches can act as alternate win cons if we can make enough treasures. And I love playing a card like Rain and Riches, since we're going to have so many treasures to give some of our spells cascade to take real advantage of all the spells we're going to hopefully be casting. With Juri, we have things like Tarian's Soul Cleaver, which can help him grow even more when things get put into the graveyard from the battlefield, making him bigger and bigger. The Reaver Cleaver can be used on Juri to hit in and get some more treasures and get some more damage. Same thing with something like Wedding Invitation, which can be sacrificed to give a creature unblockability till end of turn, allowing a potentially big Juri to hit somebody for commander damage if need be. We also have a card like Necrosynthesis, which acts just like Juri's effect, where the creature dies, we put a counter on this creature, which can get that creature get Juri pretty big again and make him a threat. We have things like Dying Wish, where whenever Juri dies, target creature loses X life, and we gain X life, where X is its power, allowing us to potentially double up, right, on Juri's death trigger when it dies. But we also have things like Fling, to just fling Juri at someone and get a second, right? The fling would get a version of its effect, and Juri would get a trigger from itself when it dies. We also have something like Soul's Fire, which doesn't kill Juri, but still deals that damage to any target. Kazul's Fury acts as kind of another copy of Fling in the deck to do the same thing, fling him no matter what. But if we get Juri big enough, we do still have something like Chandra's Ignition, dealing damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Now, the bad part about Fling or Kazul's Fury or Juri's effect is we don't get commander damage for damage that's dealt outside of combat. So if Juri's a 21/21 and we Chandra's Ignition, we don't get the commander damage win. But I think the point is we're going to be doling out enough damage to really make it worth it and start just hurting our opponents in the process, hopefully. We do have some tricky fun combos like Reassembling Skeleton with Pitiless Plunder if we can make enough treasures to always be able to bring it back and bring it back. We have things like Braids to hopefully help slow down our opponents by forcing them to sacrifice things. But again, a lot of the deck's focused on getting those treasures and make them work. If we have enough mana, Animation Module is kind of a fun one. It says whenever one or more plus and plus one counters are placed on a permanent you control, we can pay one. If we do, we make a servo. This goes really well with Pitiless Plunderer because when we sacrifice that, let's say we have a treasure already with Pitiless Plunder, and this out, we sack that treasure. Juri gets for mana, right? Juri gets counter on it. Pitiless Plunder would see that, or this would see that come on, and we would pay a mana to get a servo, and then all we would need to do is sacrifice that servo to something else, which we have a few ways to do that. Pitiless would see it die, Juri would get the counter, and we would be able to make that loop that way. But again, there's plenty of other ways to sacrifice things. The one thing I think is really fun with the Juri, of course, is something like the Ozolith, which can hold those counters and put it back on Juri, making him even bigger the next time he comes down, making it easier to get in for that damage. I think things like Chandra's Ignition, our Flings, and Soul's Fire are really going to be the things that make the most impact for us as far as trying to knock a player out once Juri gets big enough. Wedding Invitation and Reaver Cleaver and the Soul Cleaver I think are also really good as well to make Juri a combat threat. Of course, Reaver Cleaver giving it trample is going to make a big difference because then people just can't chump Juri and deal with it that way. I also really like something like Elemental Mastery because it makes a bunch of tokens where X is equal to to Juri's power, hopefully is what we're attaching it to, and then it just forces our opponents to deal with a bunch of 1/1s that go into combat, and then the ones that survive we can sacrifice to Goblin Bombardment or Phyrexian Altar or Ashnod's Altar or some of our other sack outlets to, again, net mana, net damage to our opponents, and kind of take advantage of it that way. But now that we've kind of talked about what our deck's trying to do, let's get into a playtest. We see a 4-lander here, including a Riveteer's Outlook, which is a fun card that sacrifices itself automatically to go get a land. So we definitely don't want to play this before we get Juri down. We definitely want to take advantage of that sacrifice. So I like just the turn 1 Foreboding Ruins. We're going to end up revealing that swamp. Fable Passage again here, great, because that's a land that sacrifices itself. So we again would get another Juri trigger, which is great. More counters on Juri and closer to our goal. So just 2 mana there for Juri. Turn 3, I would probably play Riveteer's Outlook here. It's going to automatically sacrifice itself, giving Juri that extra counter. And we're just going to go get a mountain here and put it on the battlefield tapped, and that just gives us another life. But again, that's us sacrificing a permanent, so Juri grows bigger. Oh, sorry, that was we still have a turn 3 there. I would probably just play the altar here, I guess. Or sorry, no, that would have came in tapped, right? I guess we'll play the Dying Wish onto Juri there and just get that going. Now is our next turn. We see the Rain of Riches there. Turn 4, I guess we might as well do the Fabled Passage here. Sacrifice it to get the counter on Juri, because the swamp here is going to come in untapped since we have 4 lands. And I really like getting the Plunder would be a good idea. I like getting the Chandra down here, because then next turn when we play the Plunder, we could get 2 treasures off of it. I don't know. The altar could also be good as well. I think I'll just get Chandra down. We could always +0 to get the 2 1/1s, swing them in, and then, get the 2 Juri triggers when they die. Next turn here, we see Pitiless Plunderer, and we see that Zulaport Cutthroat, which is pretty great. But I think we get the Plunderer down here. Again, same thing. Do the Chandra, get the 2 1/1s, hit into our opponents. If they die in combat, that's great. We still get the treasures. If they don't die in combat, they sacrifice to get the treasures, and we just get that Zulaport down for next turn. Here we get the Peak down, tapping for either color. The altar, I think would make sense, but I think I like let's think about this. We do have the biggest score there that would get us some treasures. We'd have to pitch a card to do it, or we could just put the Rain of Riches down, get a couple treasures, and prep for next turn, and do our kind of 0 on the Chandra shenanigans here for another turn. Could always just get down the altar. That way, I could Rain of Riches and get Ashdod's Altar out and Cascade on the altar, which I guess would be an option as well. I think I would just throw the Riches down, get the treasures, get it ready, 0 the Chandra, make 2 more 1/1s, swing him in. If they die in combat, great. Our opponents are losing 1 and we're gaining 1 off the Zulaport. If not, we just sacrifice at the end of combat. Again, grow Juri. They're still losing and we're still netting the treasures. Then this turn, I guess I would probably go into the big score, maybe pitch the Reclamation, draw a couple, and we would cascade off of that big score if we paid mana, or if we didn't, we wouldn't. But again, now we're just searching for more things to commit to the battlefield. This is a great engine we now have setting up, getting 2 sacrifices each turn, and eventually Juri's just going to get big enough that we can start swinging with it. Play a land, get our Soul Ring done here. Again, keep doing this, getting it ready and readier to go. And then eventually at some point, Juri's either going to get killed, or we can sacrifice it to, this Ashdod's Altar we wanted to when power gets big enough again. All we need at this point is just something else to keep making treasures and getting more creatures on the board to sacrifice and just profit. But let me know, what do you guys think of Juri? Down in the comment section below. The Juri players out there, what did I miss? I know sometimes when I take these first stabs at decks, we miss specific cards, but that's the fun of it, doing these thought experiments, trying out these decks, and seeing what we can make. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.